All right, cool. So like I said in the post, we're going to talk about, now that we've learned how to find business and get leads, what the heck do we do with a lead and take them to the closing table and actually get paid for that? Well, I found this, and this is like the stock image from the slides, but I kept it this way because sometimes it's a really short process and it's like the length of this, and they're ready to buy right now. And sometimes they're not ready to buy until next year, way over here, you know? So I was like, oh, that perfectly represents it. So I'm just going to leave it like that. And what ended up happening my first year is I feel like I just did so many open houses that I was ran into people at the right place at the right time and was able to close things, even though my follow up game wasn't that great. Right. I should have closed way more deals my first year if I just consistently stayed in touch with them, not obnoxiously, but like every week, maybe every 2 weeks. Oh, they're not doing anything for several months. Well, I should at least be contacting them every couple weeks, maybe, or at least a month from now, and going, "Hey, how's it going? Are you still thinking about moving?" Whatever it is. So encourage you to make sure that you stay on your follow up game. So that's today's class. Um, a little funnel here. We got to take all of our leads wherever they come from, and we have to put them somewhere. All right. And what I like to use is the hot warm list. We've talked about that before, and I'll probably even show that to you here in a little bit. But that's my go-to for who do I need to talk to today. All right. Like before I can even go find new business, I need to go, here's literally the business in my hands. Here's the people that are currently looking or possibly thinking about looking. Is there any of these people that I can send a text to, give them a call, send them an email, send them a real estate review, any way that I can provide some kind of value to them. And that's where I go to. I also have pretty much everybody's information in KV Core. Talked a little bit about that, I think, last week, or is the week that we talked about open houses. I use it pretty basic of just this is this person's information, contact information, and any notes that I might need for them. Where's your business coming from? You're doing open houses. We got your sphere, social media. Maybe you're doing expires and for sale by owners. Maybe you're knocking on doors. Whatever it is, you're putting your leads in the funnel. And sometimes they will just kind of work their way through the funnel themselves. But most of the time, you're going to kind of have to pump that and keep them moving forward with little carrots that go, hey, let's go look at houses, or hey, did you know this, or whatever it is. But make sure that we have some kind of place to put them to where we can put it in our face and we know exactly who to focus on. That is our business. Simply make the contact, right? For instance, I met 5 people at the open house last week, right? And those are leads. Those are solid leads. Are they ready to buy right now? Maybe. Are they ready to buy in 6 months from now? Maybe. I don't know yet, really. I mean, I try to get that information from them when I meet them, but then I'm going to call them, I'm going to text them, I'm going to email them, and I'm going to Facebook message them, or a combination of those things, right? What I ended up doing that night was when I got home and settled in, I pulled up my phone and texted each one of them. And all I did was thank them for coming out to the open house. It was great meeting you and your kids. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will be sending you some properties in the next couple days. That's all I did. And then Sunday I didn't do anything. And then Monday I followed up with setting them up on an MLS search, all right, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And then I didn't even call them yet. I just texted them, said, hey, just set you up on a search through the MLS. You'll be getting them in your email. And then I have a little thing that says, if you see something that you like, please click the green /interested button to notify me that you would like to possibly set up a showing for that property. All right. So that just a little bit of education of how the system works goes a long ways. But make that contact some way, somehow. I think text messages are very, very strong. A lot of people communicate through text message now. Even older people like that, they're perfectly fine with that. Interview them. All right. So like now we get the contact, and I've done both ways. I wouldn't say that I'm not like a stickler for, hey, you have to meet them in person and you have to interview them. And I think it does work well the times that I've done that. Say I met at a coffee shop and met them in person, and we just had a good conversation, got to know them better, and I asked these type of questions. You could do this also over the phone, right? And sometimes you might get a cold lead that just randomly calls you, and you start asking these type of questions. But the way that I remember is who, what, when, where, how, and why. All right. um, and who is purchasing the home? Maybe is the wife on going to be on the loan as well? Are both of their names going to be on it, or is it just him, or is it just her? um, who's going to be living in the house? That's pretty important. Do they have kids? Do they have dogs? Do they need a backyard because they have 5 dogs? So when you start asking these questions, they start revealing some of their pain and their pleasure, right? What's important to them, so that you can be aware of what they're looking for, right? And the next question is obviously, what are you looking for in a home? The standard answer to that is 3 bed, 2 bath. I might ask them, hey, do you have a square footage preference? Do you? And most of them, they're like, no, 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 not really. I need enough space. But then, you say, do you need a 2-car garage? Sometimes when you ask them, what are you looking for? They'll hesitate because they don't really know, like, on those terms that we think of. Is a covered patio important to you? Oh yeah, I love a covered patio. Yeah, that's definitely something I want. Okay, cool. How important is the kitchen? Obviously that's a pretty big one. But just kind of, without interrogating them, let it flow and kind of go, hey, what about this and what about that? Help me help you find what you're looking for. All right. What area of town obviously is very important, right? We're not going to send them everything in San Antonio. Um, that we're going to kind of pinpoint that. And sometimes they might be out of towners and they don't know the area of towns very well, and you find out, oh, you want to be in a good school district. Well, then you have to use some of your best judgment. Well, this school district's better than that school district. I wouldn't recommend over here, you know, etc. So think about those things. When are you looking to purchase slash move? When is it that you're looking to do this? Oh, we're just started. We're thinking about moving. We don't know for sure. Okay, cool, no problem. Guess what? I still need to get paid in 9 months from now when you're closing. So I'm perfectly okay with that. Now I know that I'm not going to follow up with you every day. I might follow up with you every 2 weeks or once a month, for the first several months. And then as we get closer, I'm going to start cranking it, and sending you stuff and setting you up on searches and really get that ball going. Um, and Where would you like to move to? We kind of already talked about that. What part of town? How will you be paying for this house? This is pretty important because some of them nowadays have already gotten pre-qualified. Some of them will like jump online and go get pre-qualified on a Rocket Mortgage or something like that on their own. Cool, awesome, you got a pre-qual. What are you pre-qualified for? Immediately that kind of tells you what their range is, right? The price range. So yeah, I'm qualified for $400,000, but I don't want to go above 320. Okay, cool, sounds great. Or they say, I don't know, I haven't, I do need to finance it, I don't have cash. Um, and then you go, great, I have several lenders that I'll put you in touch with. Is it okay to share your information with them? They'll give you a call, right? Um, and then, do they need to sell a house, or are they currently renting? You'd be surprised that some people come in and they're like, oh no, I own my home and I need to sell it before I want to move. Cool, awesome, 2 deals. All right. And why are you moving? What brings you to town? You just kind of start trying to gather as much information about the client as possible, and you're listening for pain and pleasure. Christina, have you read the Ninja Selling?
I'm about halfway through it.
Okay, a lot of this stuff, and I'll share this document that I'll show at the very end with you. But I was quickly going through and I was like, oh yeah, that's such good information. I pretty much made like a Cliff Notes version of it, and just a lot of good nuggets in there. Um, in this process and the kind of interview process, you want to kind of talk about these negotiables, right? And kind of educate them on the expenses of purchasing a house, right? So most of them know that you have to have a down payment, but a lot of people go, "Oh, I don't have my 20% saved up." You don't need 20% saved up. If you already have 10%, that's way more than most people have. All right. So we can get you in a house for as little as 3.5% down, you know, that saves money and puts money in your pocket. All right. And or we can do conventional at 5%, so make sure that they understand the differences there. All right. Closing costs. This is one that they might not uh, be familiar with. They think all I need is my down payment. I'm good to go. And then they're shocked and go, "What? There's another like $6,000 that I have to bring to the table." Yeah, it's called closing costs. It's called like prepaids, prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance, stuff like that that they collect up front to put in your escrow account. Right? It's usually about $6,000. I think that goes up to like a $300,000 price point. Obviously, on houses that cost more than that, it's probably going to be more. There's an app that you can download that you can literally plug in your numbers and the address, and it'll spit you out an approximate closing cost. So that's helpful. But just make sure that they're aware. Okay, cool. You have $20,000 for down payment. What about closing costs? Can you cover that, or do we need to ask for help from the seller? And that's a negotiable. Earnest money is 1%, and it goes towards closing costs or down payment, right? So 1% on a $250,000 house is 2,500 bucks. They're going to have to come up with that within 3 days. More than likely, they have that, right? If they're in a position of looking for a house, they have some money saved up, ready to go. Just make sure that they understand, hey, it's part of your closing cost. So if your closing cost is 6,000, you're putting $2,500 down. Now all you have to bring is a $3,500 difference, right? And they're like, oh, cool, awesome, right? The option money is super important. It's usually $10 a day, and it ranges from 5 days, 7 days, or 10 days. When I first started, it was just pretty standard 10-day option period. Now I don't, I think pretty much every contract I submit right now to be competitive is 5 days. So I'll put 50 bucks down for 5 days of option and get in and out and find out if we're going to get through that option or not. Another cost is the inspection, 5 to 600 bucks on an inspection. That's going to, they're definitely going to want to consider doing that. It's an expense up front and it doesn't go towards anything except for that inspection. All right. So it's kind of just an out of pocket costs. And they're going to want to do that to find out, anything that's wrong with the house, mechanical. Obviously, they can pretty much see with their eyes cosmetic stuff, but they're going to check the roof. They're going to check the foundation. They're going to check all the electrical. They're going to check all the water. They're going to make sure that everything's running correctly or to code or not. And then you'll go in with a repair request, which we'll talk about later. Another cost up front is an appraisal, 5 to 600 bucks, typically somewhere around there. The lender will order that, and it's a third-party appraisal company that'll come in and value the home for, hey, this home is worth the value that you're paying, or it's not worth, or it's worth more. All right, so they need to do that if it's being financed, right? The bank or whoever that is financing the home, they want to know that before we put this money up for this house, it's worth that much money. So that's just something they can't avoid. The home warranty, are they going to want that? Or do they want a 1 year home warranty? Usually the seller pays for that on their side. And there's a spot in the contract which we'll go over later that will you can ask the seller to pay for that. In a competitive market, I have recently kind of not done that and said, hey, if you want the home warranty, we can order it. Are you willing to pay for it out of pocket? Um, or not get it? I mean, you do have technically insurance on the house, but it's really up to the buyer. But if they go, no, I'd really like a home warranty, at least for the first, it's usually a 1 year home warranty. So put that in there and or leave it off, depending on what what y'all decide. Closing date is usually 30-day close. It's pretty standard unless it's a cash deal. Cash deals are typically 10 days. All right. So you're maybe buying a lot for $50,000. The guy has cash and we can close on that deal in 10 days and get paid sooner. Right. But usually it's a 30-day, but that could be negotiable. Just a reminder, if you have any questions as we go through, just go ahead and jump in and feel free to ask. Um, Once we kind of know this information that we got from the interview, all right, and we've educated them on the process, everything looks good. We're going to go home and set them up on a search. All right, we're going to go set them up on their criteria in the MLS. We're going to obviously locate the area of town that they want to be in, right? Um, you and the price point that they want to be in, 3 bed, 2 bath. Um, but other than that, if they said we really want granite countertops, great, awesome. Hopefully, but we are not going to put that in the search because 98% of realtors are probably not going to check that little box of granite countertops, or whatever it is. So now we're possibly going to miss out on a house that does have granite countertops just because the agent didn't label it that way. So you want to explain to them, hey, I'm going to set you up on the search. It's going to be automated. So you're going to get that and it's going to say it came from me, which it did. All right. But it's literally being automated. I tell them I'm sending it to you at 8 a.m. and at 3 p.m. And I might even do this for a long-term person that wants to get the search as well and see what's out there. But I might not do it as frequently. All right. So I might set them up like on, hey, 2 times a week, I'm going to send you properties that are available for you to look at. But if somebody's kind of looking right now, looking to move in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, they're getting twice a day. Anything that's new on the market, they're going to get an email from me. Right. Same type of thing you can set up in KV Core on searches. I don't tend to do that. A lot of people really like KV Core because you can. I think it's just looks a little bit better to the eye, maybe for you and the client. Play around with both. I've done both, but I usually just focus on the MLS search and that we want to do a nice wide, uh, casting out a wide net, right? So that we don't miss anything. So we're going to kind of keep it as broad as possible, but as specific to the area, the price range, the rooms is pretty much what we're going to focus on there. I also, when I set that up, I'll text them after I set it up and I say, hey, Christina, just set you up on a search on the MLS. Should be in your email here shortly. If you see something that you like, go ahead and click the green/interested button and it'll automatically notify me that you like the property. At that point, I'll reach out to you so that we can look to set up a showing to go see the house in person. So it's clear instructions. I copy and paste that thing and send it out to everybody that I set up on a search, right? Pretty simple. And then they're like, okay, sounds great, thanks. And then I leave them alone, and then I might touch base with them like 2 or 3 days later, all right, and go, hey, did you get the search? Because maybe it went to spam. You know, double check that they got it. Oh yeah, we got it. Cool. Is there anything you'd like me to adjust? Everything looking okay? Like, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Okay, sounds great. Let me know. Remember, just hit that green interested button if you see something you like. Okay, great. And then you move on. Um, Follow up. When we talk about this time and time again, you'll always hear about follow up. and any training. That's the key to success. Um, but some are ready to buy now, and some are going to drag it out forever and ever and ever and ever. But as for me personally, as long as they're communicating with me and not ghosting me, I'm a-okay. All right. Obviously I'm going to go out and try to find other business because they're not closing anything right now. But like I just reset several searches the other day that, their 3 months of search expired. I had to refresh it, and I said, "Hey, just refresh your search. It's good for now through December 1st. You'll continue to get properties as they pop up." "Oh, great. Thank you so much." Perfect. At least they communicated. What if they see something that's awesome that they can't pass up? You know, now I know that I'm pretty much on easy street for those people. I'll touch base, probably once a month or so, or more frequently. Just depends on their action, right? So they do expire, and then they only go 120 days, which is pretty long. I mean, that's 4 months of them pretty much consistently seeing your face pop up in their email. So I think it's pretty powerful.
Something, and you might get to this later, but is there a time when they're like, okay, they wanted to buy in December, we're going to start doing tours or going to look at houses in November? Do you do it like 2 months out, three
Yeah,
months out? Like, when do you shift from just seeing properties to like, let's go see one in person?
yeah, absolutely. I talk about their timeline, right? So let's say, hey, our lease is up November 31st, right? Okay, great. Well, you need to get into a house before then, else you're going to be on the streets, right? So we're going to go, well, you really should close in November, because what's going to end up happening is we close anytime in November, they're going to skip a mortgage payment in December, and their first mortgage payment won't be till January 1. So they go, so I can pay my November rent, close on a house, not pay anybody anything in December, and pay my first mortgage in January. Awesome. That sounds great. Yeah. So let's shoot for closing in November. Okay, great. Well, if you want to close in November, we need to get under contract in October, because it's a 30-day process, right? From getting under contract to closing, 30 days. So October 1, we need to like pretty much be under contract. Okay. Well, let's give ourselves at least a month to like kind of actively look for something, you know. And then, so now we're all of a sudden, what is that, September? Yeah.
September.
Yeah, September. Now we're pretty aggressively looking, right? And we're going, okay, we pretty much have 4 weeks of aggressively looking. Can't find it, can't find it, can't find it. We could really go like 7 weeks of looking and we're still not seeing anything. And get something under contract in late October that closes in late November, and they're good to go. So I
Okay.
kind of back it up from there. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah. So it looks like 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, yeah. They need to be under what? So kind of figure out when they need to be in a house, and then back it up 30 days from there, and go, you got to be under contract 30 days before you need to be in the house. And you should probably seriously be looking at least a month before that.
Month before that. Because I was just thinking about that. The client I have that's moving in from Las Vegas, right? She would be getting transferred in November, but they're not telling her for sure until October if she's getting transferred, which is the same timeline you just talked about, right? She would need to be in a house in November. They're not telling her until October, which is when she would need to be going under contract. Um, so it's just tough, but
Yeah, I would probably talk to her, have a conversation, and say, hey, is there anybody you can talk to at your company? And just say, hey, I'm looking to try to buy a house, but I need to know if I'm for real moving there. Just try to kind of find out a little bit sooner than a month out, you know.
right.
Um, so yeah, I think that's step number one, is to see if she could get some kind of confirmation before October.
Yeah.
To
She also has to sell her place in Vegas. So I feel like it's going to be like a bunch of moving pieces, like
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to line up those pieces, and you just try to do that as best as you can. In this market, I'm pretty sure this market is fairly similar in most areas of the country, but I would think that she'd be able to sell her house fairly quickly. So that'll be an interesting one. Be fun. Yeah,
Yay.
sounds good. So, so once they've liked some properties, all right, we're going to set up showing time, and I'm actually going to show you that here in a second. Not on the Showing Time app, but it is called Showing Time app. And what I like to do is I'll pull up the MLS, and I'll show you here in a second what it looks like, all the properties that they've marked as liked or interested, right? And then I click each one and I pull up a map. So then I'm able to look at a map and kind of go, okay, we're going to start at this house, and then we're going to travel to this house, then this house, then this house. So where it kind of makes sense as the travel, and you're not going bouncing back and forth and crossing paths and all of that. I don't know. That's just how I think. So I'll show you that here in a second. And then we're going to set up appointments through the app. So I look at it and go, okay, we're going to go in order of 3, 1, 4, 6, 5, 2, and then I literally pull up my app and start um, punching in the address of the first one, and as I had this question, I'm sure you'll probably have this question like, how much time do I allow for a showing? How much time do I put in between showings, etc.? What I usually do is do a 30-minute window for each showing. It's probably not going to take that long, but that gives us enough time to kind of get in there, take our time, look around, and not feel super rushed. So let's say I have showings like 3 showings in the same neighborhood, right? And we're starting at 2 o'clock. I'm going to do a 2 o'clock, a 2:30, and a 3 o'clock. All right. But let's say we're starting in this neighborhood, and then we have to travel probably at least 10, 15 minutes. So I'm going to put a little buffer in there. So maybe we do a 2 and a 2:30 in this neighborhood, and then the next one maybe isn't until 3:15. All right, to give us a little buffer in there. And sometimes, depending on if it's a go and show or if it's appointment required, if you get there a little bit early, usually you can just jump in and go. But just kind of think about that when you see the map here, it'll make a little bit more sense. And then be on time, obviously. Sometimes as I'm getting ready, I'm going, oh, I got showings at 2 o'clock. I'll pull it up on my Google Maps and go, how far is it from my house to the first house? And go, okay, I have to leave at 1:15, to be there on time. And make sure you're on time. As you get there, lock boxes. I've had this situation where I go, why do we have all these damn keys? This is just kind of the funny part of the business. You see all kinds of shit when you are doing showings, all kinds of weird, funny things. You'll have lockbox issues. You'll have lockboxes jammed. The Supra hopefully is working. Sometimes it might be dead. And then, in that situation, you just call the showing agent, like, hey, trying to show your house. We're having an issue. Can you help me here? Sometimes it's not a lockbox. Sometimes it's a code on the front door. All right. So there's a variation of things. Sometimes you have an old school combination. Maybe you'll run into this of letters instead of numbers. It's like, wow, that's ancient. Um, so all kinds of good times in doing that. Walk in, turn on all the lights, let them just kind of walk through on their own and then meet up with them. I turn on all the lights just to make it as presentable as possible. All right. Kind of scope things out myself and then meet up with them and kind of walk through. And I don't point things out. I'm not like, oh, look at that beautiful chimney. Oh, look at these floors. I'm not selling this house. I'm helping them decide on what they like or what they don't like. Because you don't want to say, and definitely you don't want to say anything negative. You
Right.
don't want to go, oh, that's terrible. And they're like, oh, I love that. Okay, well, Just let them talk, let them talk and listen. All right. And take notes of things. Oh yeah, yeah, that's great. Kind of just agree with them. Obviously they might ask you what you think, or what do you think of that? What do you think of that? Just be careful with what you say. Oh, there's a crack in the ceiling. Oh, that's not a big deal. Now you're responsible. You could be responsible. Well, my realtor said it wasn't a big deal, and now the roof's caving in. So, yeah, but we'll get an inspector. If you're interested in this house, we'll get an inspector to check it out and see how serious it is. Right? That's their job, not mine.
So that was something I've seen, and I've seen it different in different trainings. Like one about showing houses, one said like you always lead the way, right? You always guide them. One is from a woman that said never have them behind you, like you come in behind them because it's safer. And then I kind of like your approach that's like kind of let them and then go turn on lights and meet back up. Which I feel is just a little different, just a more hands-off approach, but less salesy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it all just depends, and you'll develop your own approach, right? And the safety thing is a concern, right? Especially if you're like, I've never met this person. I have a random lead. I'm meeting at this house. You kind of have to feel that out. Maybe you don't feel comfortable doing that, and maybe like, hey, before we go see a house, let's meet at a public place like a Starbucks around the corner, and I just want to meet you before we go, start this process or whatever it is. And most people are like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. And yeah, that I guess most of the people that I've shown houses to weren't just random people. I mean, they were, but like I kind of had built a relationship with them already. So I felt comfortable enough to do that.
Right.
Um, and then sometimes you'll run into like, I'm showing a house, this has happened, and like somebody is walking on the street and they're like, do you mind if I look in the house? And I always look at it as an opportunity.
Oh God, no.
Well, I
I'd
mean,
freak out.
again, it's an opportunity to sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, right? I mean, if there's multiple people there, yeah, come on in, yeah, let's take a look. And of course, like this is a potential client, they're probably unrepresented, so maybe I pick up a client that way. That's how I'm very optimistic.
Oh
And
my
then,
God.
but other times I'm like, hey, we got to get to the next showing. Let me get your information. I'd be happy to come out here tomorrow to let you in and see the house. Right. So I've done both.
Okay.
It's kind of a gut feeling. Uh, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just what I've done. You kind of have to do what you feel comfortable with. All right. I have an iPad with that I show up with. I don't bring my computer or any forms or anything like that. I have my iPad. I pull up the MLS just like it looks like on the computer, and I'm able to show them the MLS, give them any information the MLS has. And they might ask me a question like, it doesn't say anything on the MLS, so I'm gonna have to call the agent and ask, and I'll find out for you. All right. If I didn't have that, I would probably show up at least for me with an MLS printed out sheet. All right. But I have my iPad, which I love, and it works easily. Um, and then follow the showing directions. Sometimes they'll say, leave the lights on when you leave, so it's pretty clear, pretty easy to use that. Jot down notes or take mental notes. I just kind of take mental notes as what's going on. You know, in my time with them, I'm taking it all in. I do pretty well. And then maybe as we wrap up the showings for the day, I'll go, okay, this is what we're doing. Um, the last three kind of go together. Rick Tankersley says, show four and no more. All right. You don't want to go out with a client and literally show 10 houses in a day. All right. Because number one, you and them are not going to remember all 10. And that's going to be a lot of time. Let's just say the 30 minutes each. That's 5 hours of your day, and anybody, including them that are excited to go look at houses, are going to get a little worn out of 5 hours of showings. Like people's attention span kind of goes away after maybe two, maybe three max. The only time that I've ever done like a full day of showings is I had a client moving in from Chicago and he flew in for the weekend. All right. And it was like, okay, well, I'm going to show you all kinds of areas of town, see what you like, show you around. We had lunch and dinner and all of that. But that was a special occasion. Um, but yeah, show four, no more, 2, 3 hours max. And then maybe you're able to go show another client because that'll start ending up happening before you know it. You go, oh shit, Saturday I'm showing three different clients properties, and I have to bounce and we're gonna do this one in the morning and then this one midday and then this one in the evening, whatever it is. Um, and then have them always keep a running scale as to, okay, we saw three houses, we like the second house the best. Okay, cool. That is now the standard, the second house. They're not quite ready to pull the trigger and submit an offer, but they number two is the best. All right. And then number three is second, number one is right. Because we don't even care if one is third place. Like it's either one or two, right? They're not going to go for the third place unless they have to, right? And then they go see more houses later that afternoon. We're always comparing each house. Is this better than the second house that we saw? No, it's not. Or maybe. Or so now we have a new leader in the clubhouse, right? This number 5 is actually the best house we've seen. We're comparing everything to number 5. All right. So I just kind of, I think that helps. Um, do a quick show on the MLS. I should have it pulled up. This is a client's page. He's a doctor, so he likes $1 million houses. Hopefully, I can close on one of these someday. But when he likes a property, marks it interested or maybe, it shows up here, right? So when I'm setting up showings, I'll go ahead and go, okay, he wants to see these 4 houses. All right, so I'll click those check buttons. Right here's the little car, beep, beep, and pulls up the map. And this is, oh my God, I'm going all over the city here. Woof. And I live right here. So I'm going, where the heck do I want to start showing? If I had to show these on Saturday, I would maybe start out here. Even now, with that being said, I'm going, okay, I'm gonna have to leave really early to travel myself all the way here. All right. And then I would probably, if I did that, go here, here, and maybe here, as this one's closest to home and I have a short travel home. Or do I want to start short travel because I procrastinate and don't leave on time? This is probably the closest one. And then kind of do it in reverse order. And then when I'm done for the day, I do the long drive home. Right. So that's kind of, I see the map and then I go, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to start here. 1, 3, 4, 2 is the order I'm going to go in. And then I start going on showing time and typing in the address and setting up a showing for 1, 3, 4, and 2. All right. And definitely would have to put in some travel time buffer. So this might be a showing at 1 p.m. and I'm going over here, and that might not be till like 2:30, 2:15, right? Just to give myself time to, and both of us to go here. I've never been in the same car as my client. They always follow me, or I always go with them. The only time I did that, obviously, was again my out of town client. Right? I had met with him multiple times. Then he flew in, and I was like, "I'll pick you up, no problem, at the hotel, and go from there."
Do you find that not just with you, but overall pretty common that like you guys just follow each other
I would,
nowadays?
yeah, I would say so. I don't really know anybody that picks up their client and takes them around because then all of a sudden you have to take them back when you're done. We're done. See you later. We go our separate ways. And
Yeah.
nobody's ever said anything about it. And I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, my parents are like obsessed with that. Like that's what they expect. They're like, "Oh, you need to make sure you have a car that you can take clients." And I'm like, I don't know if that's done anymore. They haven't shopped for a house in 15 years, so like, I don't know.
That definitely used to be the thing. And like, for instance, when you're working with a client, you want to make sure that they're like a pre-qualified client and they're like legit before you start showing a bunch of houses. And they used to say back in the day, the lender would call you and go, "Hey, I wouldn't put this person in my car. It's not worth your time." You know? So yeah, I don't think that's the thing anymore because we're all coming from
Yeah.
different
And
places.
because we all have maps on our phones, I'm sure that's a big deal because it used to be the agent would print out MapQuest,
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
drive you around.
Because as I'm leaving the house, I'm going, okay, we're going to the next one on the list that I sent you. It's 123 Main Street. And
Go.
like, okay, cool.
Yep.
And see you there. We got it. And everybody does that. So yeah.
Cool.
They're ready to submit an offer. That's exciting, right? And first step, I believe, is to contact the selling agent. All right. So you're leaving the house. Maybe it's the second house that you're seeing, but we're gonna go see one more. I want to submit an offer on this, but let's go see the last one on our list. Okay, cool. I'm on the way there. I'm gonna call the agent. Hey, Christina, just showed your house on Main Street. We loved it. We're gonna be putting an offer in later this afternoon. Just wanted to give you a heads up. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Tony. Um, hey, real quick, do you have any offers currently? And at this point, they usually say, oh, yeah, we have 50 offers and you're 51. Okay, great. I'll make sure to consider that when we're writing it up. All right. And that's what we do. You'll want the prequal letter, all right, from the lender. Hopefully, they're already prequalified. When you meet them, you get them prequalified. If they're not, that literally can happen within a couple hours. And now it's not a pre-approval, but a prequal usually from a good lender, a reputable lender, will suffice. Then you fill out the docs and the zip forms. We're going to quickly go over that, not too in depth. And then you send it off for e-signature. Once you get those back with all signatures, then you send them off to the agent, right? And with the prequal letter. So you'll have several documents, the 1-4 family, probably the third party contract, a third party addendum, excuse me, an HOA addendum if it's an HOA, lender's right to terminate due to appraisal. We'll go over those in just a second here. And you attach all those into an email, and it's just a real simple email. Hey, Christina, attached is the documentation representing my client's offer for 123 Main Street. Please let me know if you have any questions, period. I look forward to working with you and your clients, period. Tony, and then attach documents, and I slap my little signature on there. All right, and it's done. And it's off. And then usually I'll text them or call the agent, say, hey, just sent you an offer. Have your clients look at it. Let me know what y'all think. Just to make sure that they've received it. Just confirmation of that. We're going to go ahead and look at the zip forms real quick. Running a little bit behind. This might go a little bit fast. Oh, of course, it's signing me up. Okay, so we can talk about setting this up later, but I'm going to show you a template. We can help you get set up your buyer's packet and your listing packet. We're going to focus on the buyer's packet right now. And here's all of the documents that you'll need in your buyer's packet. You have a buyer's rep agreement, right? Your 1-4 family, third party financing, addendum for HOA, property subject to mandatory member, addendum concerning right to terminate due to lender's appraisal, the EXP ABA disclosure, disclosure of a relationship with residential service, and then of course your IABS and your wire fraud. All right, so those are all the ones you'll be in there. We'll go real quick on filling out the contract. All right, let me back up for a second. Some of the things that you'll want to kind of get signed pretty early, even probably before you submit an offer. the brokerage definitely says that you do it like the very first meeting. You're supposed to be showing IABS. Most people I know don't do that right away. Some do. You're kind of supposed to. But yeah, you can send this to them maybe right after your first meeting, maybe before your first meeting. Sometimes if I have a buyer's consultation, I'll bring it to them and say, hey, here's the documentation. This just says all the terms of who I am and that I'm a licensed realtor. And here's my broker's information. Um, and then I'll send it to them electronically to sign, etc. But those are the IABS, the wire fraud, the residential buyer, all right, and then the two disclosures, right? Those are all the forms that you need to get them to sign that you will need to upload later. All these other ones are actually the ones that you're going to be using to submit the offer, all right? So let's say they're financing a house, it's conventional, and it's in an HOA. You're going to be submitting for the offer these four forms, these four contracts and addendums, all right? So we'll look real quick at the 1 to 4. Right here is, it says seller. So the seller's name will be entered into here. If it's, husband and wife, doesn't matter what order, but you put their full name, right? Tony Ruiz, Miranda Ruiz, right? And then you put your buyer's information. Again, Tony Ruiz, Miranda Ruiz. If it's just one, leave it as one. All this information is in the MLS, right? So if we were putting an offer on this particular property, all right, then we're going to look at that and we're going to look for the lot and block number. And it is, you know what? Picked a bad one. That was the land. I think most of this is land. Is the house? No. Oh gosh, failing. This is the house. So this is a house, right? It's only 1.19. All right. And the lot and block is lot 9. Why can't I find this? Single family home. It's in there, right? And we won't waste too much time finding that, but you'll fill in the lot, the block, the subdivision name, the city of whatever, the county of whatever, and then the address, right? You'll see right here, it says address and zip code. So that will go here, all right? Exclusions, very rarely would you put anything here. But if you go, hey, we don't want this accessory of the house, please remove that before we buy this. Usually it's blank. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it's third-party financing, you would click this little box and you would put down, this is the down payment, right? The cash portion of sales price that they're bringing, down payment, and then the finance amount, and it'll automatically calculate the purchase price right here for you. All right, just make sure you check this box. I've never done a loan assumption addendum. I've never done seller financing. Usually it's a third party financing, or if it's a cash deal, you just say, we're bringing $100,000 cash and it's $100,000 down, right? And that's it, all right? The leases, this is usually multifamily or residential rentals. Usually you don't fill that out, but if you have that, please let me know. Earnest money and option money goes here. This is the title company. So on the MLS, it will tell you what title company they want to use. All right, let's see if I could find this one. Gosh, failing miserably here. Oh God. Okay. Let's close that. Anyways, trust me, on there is the title company. You would put the title company there. You'd put the address of the title company, and then you put the earnest money, which is typically 1%. All right. And then your option money, let's say it's 5-day option period, which you would put here, 5 days, put $50 right here. This additional earnest money, option money, it's very rare that you do that. Um, so it's usually blank. The title policy, again, seller is paying for it or buyer. Typically the seller does, but it could be negotiated to that the buyer is going to pay for that. Right. This is usually approximately little less than 1% of the purchase price. So you go, hey, if you really want this house, a thing to make it more attractive is to obviously offer more money and tell them that you're going to pay for the title policy and the survey. Right. So this is for title policy right here. You would put the title company's name here again. You would click will not be amended. Or if you wanted to amend the shortages, who's going to pay for it? All right, those are all negotiable things. The survey, this is it's going to be transferred, right? They have an active survey, or if it's not approved, then the seller's going to pay for it, or the buyer's going to pay for it, right? So that might make your offer more attractive. This one says, if you click this one, it says that the buyer is going to pay at the buyer's expense for a new survey within blank days. Usually, probably put like 21 days before the closing. All right. And it gives us time to order a survey and get it done. If the seller is going to pay for it, then you would click box number 3. Right. So that's that. This is residential use, and this is 3 days. And that's what I've been taught. So that's what I do. And that's what I'm teaching you. Over here is the members HOA. Is it in a HOA or is it not? You have to check one of those to have a complete contract. Buyer has received the notice, right? Again, I'm not going to go back, but the MLS in the top right corner, there's additional documents, and you drop that down and it will have, if they've uploaded the seller's disclosure, you can download it and send it to your client and look it over with them. You would say, we have received it. If it's not there, it says buyer has not received it, and we need it within 3 days so that we can review to see if there's anything we don't like, right? And then buyer accepts the property as is. Don't worry, you can still ask for repair request, but you usually accept it as is. Right here, the residential service contract is where you would put in an amount for a home warranty. Your buyer says, I really want a home warranty. I feel better about it, about the appliances breaking down in the first year. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to ask them to pay for it. You would put, I always put $610 down there as the one that the home warranty that I use. There's others out there that you can shop around. There's a couple people that sell home warranties that I know and work with. So I'd put whatever number down there that they recommend to offer to your client.
If the buyer is going to pay for it, do you not put it there?
Correct.
Okay.
You pretty much say, hey, we're not worried about it, but of course you can order it and then the buyer just pays for it. Yeah. If you are buying the property and you're a sales agent, you would notify them right here that I am a sales agent and licensed sales agent. Closing date is usually 30 days out. So I pull up, it's the 12th. I go 1, 2, 3, and 4. That will be the closing date, 4 weeks from now. So that's what that looks like. Or sooner if it's a cash deal, 10 days, you pick the date, Monday through Friday. Possession of the house, are we going to get it upon closing and funding? Yes, typically you have to pay for it to live in it, or according to a temporary residential lease. Maybe they have to get in there in 2 weeks. Are they willing to allow us to pay rent until we buy it? Then you would click this one, and there's a different addendum that you would attach for that request. Special provisions is rarely filled out because they pretty much have a bunch of addendums to cover any special provisions that we have or that we would want. But if there's something unique, you would put it in here. I've never done it. And then the settlement cost, this is your closing cost. So they go, oh my God, I need $20,000 for my down payment. That's all the money I have. I don't have anything extra. We need help with closing. Okay, then we're going to put $6,000 down here, and it is negotiable. Um, if you put nothing down there, that's more attractive to the seller. If there's a big amount there, it's less attractive. If you go, hey, we want some help, then maybe go halfway or some percentage of the closing costs. Um, Here you just check off all the addendums that you're attaching. So third party, and then lender's right to terminate due to the appraisal. And then I believe the HOA one is, and yeah, I passed it. Addendum for property subject. So you just check, check, and check. Let's say it's old house and it's a lead-based paint. You would check that one. Those are your most standard ones that are checked off. Usually these other ones are pretty odd and you probably won't run into them. All right. And then if it's a non-realty, hey, I really want to buy that fridge that they have in there. You can request that by filling out a non-realty addendum and attaching that. You would check here and write in non-realty addendum. All right. Um, those are attorney stuff. You don't fill that out. This will be filled out by the seller's agent once all signatures are on the document. They'll put a date right here, and that's important because that starts your option period. All right, and your 3-day countdown to get your earnest money and option money turned in. Here you fill out your information, eXp Realty, the license number, you're the buyer, your name, your license number, the email address, the phone number, Rick Tankersley, his license number, the address, phone number, city, state, zip, and you do the same information from the listing agent, which you can get most of this from the MLS, and sometimes they'll even attach a document that says, writes out all this information and tells you to fill it in. All right, so that's kind of expected. Most listing agents want that to happen. You'll want to put 3% down here. Sometimes the buyer's commission is less than that. I've seen that recently. So whatever they put down there, if they put 2.5% down is the commission for the buyer, then I usually put 2.5% there. If I want to be sneaky and try to slip it by them and put 3%, and they sign it and it's done, we go, hey, you owe me 3%. Y'all signed it. I'm not a sneaky person, so I'm pretty honest. So whatever that is, it's usually 3%, but sometimes it's not. All of that will be filled out by the title company right here. No need to fill that out. So in the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and move forward. We'll talk about some of these other stuff a little bit later. But let's get back to finishing this up here shortly. So we get all that, we e-sign it. I didn't walk you through that. I can do that maybe some other time. But you get them back in an email, you save those documents to your desktop, and then you put them into an email like we talked about earlier. Send it off. Hey, offers headed your way. Great, they've accepted. Maybe they counter, maybe they like what you submitted and they accept it right away. Maybe they come back and say, hey, is your buyer willing to come up $5,000 or whatever it is? And so you go back and forth until you agree. Obviously, you write up a new contract with the adjustments that they agreed upon, get all signatures, and now it's executed. Don't celebrate too soon. I've made that mistake before. You can celebrate when it closes and you get paid. All right. So all types of things can happen between getting it accepted and closing. So hold on to your butts, like they say in Jurassic Park. Earnest money and option money are due within 3 days to the title company. That can now be one check typically, and it could be a personal check, 1% of the purchase price, and 50, 70, or $100, depending on how many days your option period is. Order inspection immediately to fit your option period, and a repair request. So they'll do an inspection. They'll say all these things are wrong with it. You'll want to focus on the most important to you and your client, going, hey, it's really important that we fix these 5 things, right? Yeah, there's 20 other things that are wrong with the house, but we got to fix these things to move forward. Then you write that up in a request and then send that off to the agent. And during your option period is your window of negotiating, right? So you're trying to get everything negotiated and done, and agreed upon before that option period closes on the 5th day or the 7th day or the 10th day at 5 p.m. Um, and then once that's done, turn in the docs to the lender, all right, and do what the lender says. So once you have it, all right, the lender doesn't know you're under contract until you send that contract to the lender. I early on I did that by mistake. I was like probably 5 days into the contract. It was fairly early, maybe even a week. And luckily my uh lender is like, hey, did y'all get under contract? I was like, yeah, we've been under contract. Oh, well, I haven't seen the contract. I had to send it to him. So then he could start the process of getting it, qualified and approved and all that. So once it's executed, send it off, say, hey, we're under contract. Here's a new contract. Get it going. Order their appraisal and get that started. And then just let them know that, hey, pretty much you as a realtor don't do a whole lot from the option period to the closing day. Right. So it's you check in with them and tell them to submit all the documents that the lender asked for, and be on top of that. We're going to have to do this some other time, just because I don't want this to go extra long. But once that's done, you're going to upload it into SkySlope. And SkySlope is EXP's way of going, okay, they review the documents, make sure they look good, and then they set up your CDA, your closing disbursement approval. All right, which means that's how you get paid. So if you don't upload into SkySlope, you don't get paid. So that's a pretty important process there. And we'll talk about that later and go over in more in depth on that. The follow up and check in, right? You should probably check in weekly with your client, make sure everything's good, make sure they're still excited. They're reporting and turning everything into their lender. Make sure to communicate with the agent on the other side and the title company and the lender. Hey, everything looking good. I have a listing right now and we're supposed to close on Monday. And I just touched base with the agent. I'm like, hey, saw the appraisal came in, didn't hear anything. Everything looks good. Cool. Awesome. Let me know if anything comes up. I don't want to be surprised. Um, and then set up a closing time with the title company. So like about a week out or so, everything's looking good. We're getting ready to get documents. Okay, cool. My client wants to close at 10 a.m. on Monday. That's going to fit his work schedule. Can we get that scheduled for title? Cool. Sounds great. And then remind the client about setting up utilities for closing day and like obviously, early on, are you going to get movers? Do you need to hire movers? Do you need my help with that? Whatever it is. So just continue to communicate. Closing day and payday, that's the fun day, right? You want to set up a final walkthrough, probably either the night before or the morning of closing. And that's just to make sure that the house is still standing and everything looks good and they fix the issues that the repairs that you asked them to fix. Hopefully they've taken care of that well in advance, but you want to double check that, right? And yeah, everything looks good. Cool. There's nothing funky here. Right. You want to prepare a closing gift. It's pretty important. I do like a basket with like a cutting board, with a throw, with a candle, just something a little homey. All right. And then I also threw in like a doormat recently that says home sweet home, and they're like, oh man, thanks so much, and they throw that down and it's cool. Right. I feel like when they come home and look at the doormat, maybe they think of me. I don't know if they kick it because of that or it brings a smile to their face. Um, and then the follow up and ask for referrals. This is really cool. I'll show you this real quick. 15 follow ups after the sale that I got from Ninja Selling. Um, Here's part of my thing, the document that I made of ninja selling. 15 post closing contacts in their first year. 2 days after they close, you're going to follow up. Any surprises with the house? Everything going okay? Awesome. 2 weeks after they close, are they settling in and getting unpacked? How's that going? Have they met any neighbors? Right. 1 month after, how are y'all liking the neighborhood? 3 months after that, how's the home working out? Everything good? Let me know if there's any issues that I can help with. 6 months after, just kind of becomes an annual call. Anniversary of closing, 1 year later, 1 year after they close. Hey, congratulations! It was 1 year ago that you closed on your house. Oh shit, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Everything's going great. Awesome. Cool. By the way, do you know anybody that's looking to buy or sell? So that's just another opportunity. On her birthday, you call him 3 days before to remind him. On her birthday, you call to wish her a happy birthday. On his birthday, you call to remind her 3 days before. And on his birthday, you call to wish him a happy birthday. All right. Wedding anniversary, remind him and wish her a happy anniversary. Children's birthdays, mail a birthday card with a gift certificate to an ice cream shop or something like that. If you have Spurs tickets or something that you can't use, do a giveaway to one of your favorite clients. Home visit 3 to 5 months after closing. Go swing by and say, "Hey, man, I was thinking about bringing over a pizza or whatever, and just wanted to say hi and see how things are going." So, some good creative ideas there to stay in contact with that person, because what we're trying to do is build a relationship that you're gonna be the only realtor they ever use, because more than likely it's possible in 5 to 6 years they might be looking to sell their house and buy the next one. So you build that up. Any questions?
No, that was really good.
Cool. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, as I was building this, it was like more and more and more and more. What I like
Yeah.
about doing this too is like, there's some things that we kind of skipped and we'll go back and hit, but it's like kind of a reminder of like, oh yeah, I do need to do that. Oh yeah, I do need to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a cool process. So yeah, I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. That's good stuff. Do you feel like you do follow up with your past clients? Like probably not the 15 touches, like it's pretty detailed, but a little bit.
I wish I did. I think it's about on par with my follow up in general. Um, I think I think even you or anybody's going to realize, man, I should be following up more.
Yeah.
Even when you follow up decently, you should probably be following up more. All right.
Yeah.
And the people that are really crushing it and like have clients just sending them business constantly are probably the ones that are best at follow up, and they've created that relationship. Um, I There's literally most of my clients that have closed deals in the past 2 years. I probably haven't spoken to them since they closed. If I'm going to be brutally honest. Um,
Tony.
One of my ways is I'm planning in October to host a client appreciation party. So that's going to give me multiple times to touch them and invite
Yeah.
them and hey, come on out. I'm 2 years in. I want to thank all of you for you know um, being a client of mine and trusting me. And oh, by the way, who do you know that's looking to sell? So it's one of those that I'm hoping to get back in routine. Like the people that just closed recently, I've already stayed in contact with. I checked in with them, like the 2 day after or the week after. Hey, anything weird happen? Oh, actually, something weird did happen, but they fixed it. Okay, cool. Let me know if anything else comes up. And one just brought his family in from Indiana. So I probably want to swing by sometime and meet his wife and kids, just to get to know him. So I'm working on that. Hope to get better at it. But if I'm brutally honest, no, I haven't been doing great at it. So there's always room for improvement.
Yeah. My realtor that sold me this house, I've never heard from him again. And it's been 6 years now. Now would be the time, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
a 5-year check-in would have been great.
yeah.
Um,
exactly.
Here
So
we are.
don't make that mistake, you know.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I go, well, now I feel weird contacting them. You know, if you have a good reason to contact them, like, hey, I want to invite you to a party where there's going to be free food and drinks. I'm sure they'll be like, yeah, sounds great. You know, even though I haven't
Yeah.
heard from you in a while.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe they do, maybe they don't. But yeah, just reach out to them. They're just think about this. You haven't really thought about them, and they probably haven't thought about you. So
Right.
be the bigger person and reach out to them. So
Cool. Well, this is really good. Thanks a lot.
cool. Um, stop sharing.